Historic moment for my tiny print shed here. I've been wanting to do this for a while, and so I'm now set up to have 3 printers going at the same time, which I couldn't before because of this insulated enclosure here, which I have set up for winter printing. It gets really cold up here in the Arctic New England, and so I had 2 cubes side by side with a wall down the middle with a printer in each one and a space heater in each one, and that worked great. But I have multiple bed slinger printers that don't get any more use because I have K1 and a K1 Max, and but the S1 Pro is a perfectly fine printer. It's just not as fast as the other two. So it got voted off the island temporarily until I got around to eliminating the center wall. I recently added this light here, super affordable from Walmart. And but anyway, kind of cool that I can finally now have 3 printers going. I don't know, I was concerned about would it trip the breaker having 3 of them going, and I looked up the current requirements and power requirements for generic 3D printer, and they were even saying like 11 amps for just for the bed alone. Maybe that's a maximum, or maybe that's just nonsense that Google told me. I'm not sure which, but it's obviously not in this case, in this weather, because I believe it's a 15 amp breaker. And I'm on a long extension cord from my house to my shed, and it has not tripped the breaker. And I have 3 printers plus the light, plus phones being charged, being used as cameras, being charged by USB charger now. Of course, that's not a huge draw. That's like up to 2 amps each charger, I think. If it's even doing that. Maybe I have those numbers wrong, I don't know. But so far so good. 3 printers plus lighting and accessories on 1 circuit breaker. So that's kind of cool. Now the question will become, if I clicked on the space heater, would that trip the breaker? I think it might. I think the space heater uses a fair amount of current, and but it did run, I believe I ran 2 printers plus the heater in the winter. Now that I think about it, I'm not sure if I did both, because I really wasn't using the S1 Pro here very much when I had the K1, and that well, actually, wait a minute, by the time winter came around I was with the K1 and K1 Max. And so yeah, and I lent the K1 out in like February, something like March or something. So that was basically through the winter I had both, and I'm sure I must have been running both at some times, plus the heater. So that's interesting to think about. But you know, it's possible, depending on how cold it is, possible that all 3 printers running might make enough heat with the enclosure closed to stay warm enough to run properly anyway. I guess we'll see how that plays out in the wintertime. But anyway, I'm pretty happy with this. Let's a little more on this interesting filament feed setup I have here. As you can see, I'm bypassing the filament runout sensor, and if I want to use that, I can. But I find this setup very easy. So I made these modular shelves. You can see each side prints independently, and they pin together, and the tops click on, and it's modular, and I can do various changes. So the intermediate shelf, I have a smaller version here, printed out. So this one these segments are too big to print on the K1, so these are printed on the K1 Max, and they're big enough to hold. This one's big enough to hold full-size spools. This one, the bed size of the K1 is not big enough to fit full-size spools in there. I could have potentially done it, but with supports and a brim, I can only go really like 7.5 inches tall, and it doesn't end up fitting the spools, but that's okay. I have the smaller spools on this one, and as you can see here, I'm also bypassing the standard spool holder and filament runout, and I just have these spools just sitting on this shelf, paying out from the bottom. So as you can see, the blue one there, dark blue, it just rolls toward the back wall. Worst case, it will just bounce off the back wall, but it's not getting that far. It's just kind of being shocked by the cross member. Wow, look at her go. So this is actually working out really well. And this one I'm doing multi-material, and so quite easy to just at material change time, and maybe I'll show it. And I intend to do a video on my. I really have the workflow pretty good now for the manual multi-material change for the K1, better than what I did like a year ago. The workflow, I mean, is better than what I did a year ago. You're kind of limited unless you want to do a bunch of filament changes. You know, this model I've fine-tuned to. That's one of these guys, by the way. Really fine-tuning this model to minimize the filament changes. In this version of it, I'm actually only changing 3 times, I believe, maybe 2. I think 3. But I'm basically going TPU, and there we go, good time. And so I just I'm gonna tell the so it pauses automatically at the change, and I can see, so my PLA is printing at 229, and so if I tell it to resume printing, then I can see it's going 245, and so I know that I need to switch to the TPU, and I told it to resume. So I'm playing with fire. Oh, and I have one hand. I could be in trouble here. I gotta snip the filament, feed it back in. Can I do this in time? Uh-oh.